What's up, guys? Welcome back to my shop. Welcome back to the channel. On this episode, I've got a fun little project I wanted to do for our boy Homer over here. But before we get into that, let me spin you around, kind of show you where we are with Homer for the week. Some of it I didn't record because I had a lot of action going on down here in the shop, but I'll catch you up real quick and then I'll show you what we're gonna do today. Okay, kind of like I start every video, here is the current status of Homer. So, obviously, everything is still together from last week. We have the hats off right now because I'm still currently waiting on my carburetors and linkage. Hopefully, those will be here this upcoming week. But for now, we've got Homer's electric water pump installed and wired in. We have the upper radiator hose installed. We went ahead and installed all the caps. So we've got our temperature gauge provision here, so that's what we're using there. And then obviously we have our provision back here in the back for the oil pressures. And then we had the fuel pump installed. I have to get a new oil dipstick tube because that one got broke off, so I got to replace it. We've started on the wiring. I'll take you inside and show you that. This is going to drive OCD people like super nuts, but it's the way it worked out for the coil and the distributor, which is back in there. So I'm going to leave it. Let me see, what else have we got done? Essentially, we just buttoned up a bunch of little stuff. Oh, the lower radiator hose. So I'm waiting on a new belt because I had to put in a spacer, which made this made this belt too short. And then when I lined everything up, it's hitting my lower water pump snout here. So I've got to get an extension, and they extend this out about 3 inches so my belt will clear, or this will clear the belt, however you want to word it. And then I'm going to get a 22-degree fitting and turn it so it comes over here out of the way. So I've got a little bit of mathematics there to figure out, which I got an F on in school. So yeah, we'll get that dialed in. Let's see. Okay, inside. So this is all good to go. It's set. I had to take the seat back out so my buddy could wire everything. But not a whole lot's changed. We still have to get the harness bar installed. Not that big a deal. Okay, so the dash, we've got everything hooked up in here on toggles. So this is going to be my ignition. Power everything on. Push button start. Fan 1. This is going to be water pump, and then when I get ready to shoot into the pit or down the chute, I'll turn my second fan on, and so I'll have both fans running full power. And that's going to be pretty much it. I'll have my gauges. I'll show you those when I get them installed. But essentially, I'm running without an alternator, and I'm running without a power steering pump. I'm looking into electric power steering pumps, but good night 11, they are very, very expensive. So I'm going to kick that around like a soccer ball for a few, let's say months, and we'll figure that out. Still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with exhaust. I'd love to have some really long tube zoomies that come out. But again, those are ridiculous expensive right now. So I don't know, I'm kicking it around. And I know I'm using the word expensive a lot, especially after, you know, that. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to force anything. Homer is Homer, and you know, it is what it is. So driver's seat's installed. All right, I have the fuel cell installed, bolted down, battery box installed, bolted down. The electrical is going to run up the driver's side. The fuel is going to run up the passenger side so we can keep them separated. So we'll get that finished up in a future video. And then, you guys, to be honest with you, it's just a matter of getting him stripped the rest of the way down, painted, get his new wheels on, and all of that jazz. And Homer is going to be dialed in. And then we're going to do the break-in video, which I think I'm going to do live. Like, I'm going to set the camera up on a tripod over here. We're going to do first start live with everybody. Because I know when we go live, our community, I mean, they flood the house. So we generally have right around 100 people in here chatting on our lives, which is cool. I'm blessed. We're all blessed. It's awesome. Okay, so now back to today's episode. As you know, we have that beautiful engine in Homer. We have this beautiful 727 from Cope Racing Transmissions. And then we have that beautiful new 8 3/4 in Homer that was from last year. So all that is new. We're gonna paint the whole underneath of the car with all new electricals, all new fuel lines. The only thing that isn't gonna be new is the drive shaft. And I know some of you are like, well, just paint it black and throw it in there. Well, I don't wanna do that. What I wanna do is candy cane my drive shaft. I think it would look cool. It's really not a big theme for Homer, but from the research I've done, it was a big thing in the 60s and 70s. People would candy cane their drive shafts. And I've looked up some photos on it, and I think it's just sick looking. I think it's gonna look cool under Homer. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, so sitting up here on my lift on some professionally made stands. I think this is an old piece of foam out of that box over there. I don't know what this held, maybe the fuel, I don't care. Anyway, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sand this all down because it's like a super pitted rust, like I'm sure a lot of you've seen before. We're gonna sand this all down and get it as smooth as possible. If any of you are Walking Dead nerds like I am like a massive The Walking Dead nerd, especially the earlier seasons. And you had my boy Abraham, and one of his famous quotes is like, I wanna be dolphin smooth. Well, that's what I want to get this drive shaft. So we'll try to get this dolphin smooth, and then we'll use some filler primer on it, wet sand it, get that nice and smooth. And then we're going to start with the white, get that all painted, let it cure. We'll tape it all off with the candy cane design, and then we'll shoot our red, let it cure, take all the tape off. Might do a slow montage on that, like real nice and slow with some cool music. Probably not, but anyway. And then we'll take and we'll get some new universal joints, paint these ends black, get this all cleaned up real nice. And then when we slap, well, the engine's already in there, but then when we slap this new transmission from Cope Racing Transmissions, go check them out on YouTube, by the way. John is a killer dude over there. And then we're gonna have that candy cane drive shaft, which I think is gonna look epic in there. And by the way, speaking of epic, look at all the new jewelry on this Camaro back here. That thing is going to be sick. Cannot wait to show you the videos on that when it's done. But anyway, hey, let's quit yapping. This is Buster Radio Garage. Let's get after it. All right, guys, I just got my phone set up on an old drain pan, which is sitting underneath the Summit box, which is being held up by a Teflon tape roll. So I'm just going to use my $3.99 Hobo Freight like face shield here. And of course, my tool of choice, a grinder with a wire wheel on the end of it, which you can buy a pack of these at any Hobo Freight for like 10 bucks. So, anywho, let's get the wire wheeling this down. All right, guys, that turned out, if I'm being 100% honest, amazing. I mean, almost looks like a brand new drive shaft. I mean, look at this. I mean, that is sick. So that is just the wire wheeling. Look, I'm only going from here to here. The rest of this will be masked off and painted black. So we can get you new universal joints to get everything connected up, so we're not having to worry about pretty paint and all that. So we're just going to go from end to end there, and then I just simply wiped it down with your normal brake clean to see how it would look. And I mean, that just looks freaking amazing. So what I'll do is I'll get this all nice and cleaned off. We'll find a spot over here in the shop, I don't know where, to where we can get it to where we're not moving it around a whole lot other than to paint it. For some of you, this may be silly, and I get it. And if you don't want to watch it, I get it. But for the project, it's going to look really, really cool. So, all right, let's get to work. All right, guys, so here's my setup. Essentially, I just run the Driveshaft across 2 boxes, made a bridge there, right, to paint it. So whatever gets on the floor, gets on the floor. Not worried about it. Anyway, I'll give you a run through on the products that I'm going to be using today. None of them are sponsored in the shop or the channel or this video, but this is what I've got. Had this old can of Rust-Oleum primer over there in my paint box or paint bin or paint cabinet, whatever you want to call it. I bought this can of red to use. It's Rust-Oleum cherry, or wait a minute, gloss cherry red. And then I actually bought this white for another project for Homer, which didn't work out. It looked miserable, so I didn't do it. And I have, half a dozen cans of that. And then I have this clean release blue tape, 2-inch. I think that's going to be about the right spacing for the candy stripe. So anywho, let's get this primer shook up, get it on there, and then we'll let that cure, and then we'll go on to the white, and then to the red, and then to the stripes, and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, let's make a candy cane. All right, guys, it's a little loud in here because I got the turbo heater on, but all the primer is down, and man, that thing looks slick. I used the filler primer to kind of try to take some of them divots out and make this like dolphin smooth. So once this cures up, gets it good and dry, we'll wet sand it down, get it smooth, another coat, and then we'll mask off and start getting ready for the candy cane itself. But this is turning out really, really nice. All right, guys, I got all the primer done, 3 coats of primer, got it wet sanded, got it smooth, and I just put the first coat of white on. And if any of you have ever painted anything white, if you're not super careful, it's gonna run like the dickens. So this is probably gonna be 3 or 4 real light coats, because I've got the, I think it's, high gloss. So I don't want that stuff to get to where it's starting to moving around, and then it's all on one side of the Driveshaft, and then we start running into balance issues and all that jazz. So we'll put 3 or 4 light coats on it, and then maybe 1 top coat. We'll just kind of play it by ear, and then we'll let that cure up, and then we'll start the tape for the red, and I think this thing is gonna look sick. So let's keep going. All right, guys, check this out. Why, hey, ain't nobody here. Come here. What you over there barking about? Ain't nobody listening to no little brown dog. No, we ain't. No, we ain't listening to no brown dog. All right, anyway, guys, so here we go. We got like 5 light coats of the white on the Driveshaft, and it just turned out, it turned out really nice. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this cure up for the next, 12 to 16 hours, and let it cure up really nice. Because once we tape this, we're going to be pulling against that white to get the tape back off. And I don't want anything to come off there, so I'm going to give us plenty of time to cure. And in the meantime, I got to get loaded up. I got to get out of here. I got to go up by the land of the maple leaf and pick up a new toy for the channel. And if you've been paying any attention to the community page whatsoever, you have a pretty good idea, if not 100% guaranteed idea, on what I'm about to bring home. And it's going to be... So anyway, let me get packed up, get ready to get out of here. I'll touch base back with you here in about 16 to 20 hours, and we'll get back on this Driveshaft. So by the time you see this, I'll be back home and already back working on this. So, all right, guys, it's like 20 hours later. We just made a heck of a round trip up north, back home. Got something very cool on the trailer. I'll show you on a later episode. But as you can tell, it is super late out. I think right now it's right around 10:30 at night, which is crazy. Anyway, back to work. So let me show you what we got. All right, so here we're back on our Driveshaft. All nice and dried and cured. Turned out amazing. So our next step is to go ahead and mask off for the stripes. And I'm going to do that next to make sure to get our edges and everything nice and even. Everything down nice, because what I don't want to happen is for the colors to bleed through and it look terrible. Now, that could happen anyway, but it is what it is. If we have a little one, I'm not going to worry about it. It's a burnout card. But I just think it's going to be cool to have this underneath Homer. So let's get to masking this off and see what we come up with. All right, guys, as you can see what I'm doing here, I'm just kind of rolling the drive shaft and keeping the tape to where does it become like disformed or have wrinkles in it, and I think it's rolling out pretty even. Just trying to make sure I don't drop the shaft on the ground. All right, there we go. So essentially, everything that's white will now be red, and everything that is blue will remain white. There was a bevel here. The drive shaft actually reduced size a little bit here. So I'm just going to start the candy cane here. When I pull this off to be white, I can either leave it white or paint it black. But we'll see what it turns out like. Let's shoot it. Very cool. There's coat number 1. So we'll let that cure up a little bit. And then we'll put probably coats 2, 3, and 4. Just a little bit at a time so it doesn't start to run. And then we'll unmask and see what it looks like. Got the torpedo heater, just kind of keeping solid heat on it. This thing's gonna look epic. All right, guys, it's about 12:30 in the morning, so it's been a couple hours, and we're still good and dark out there. It'll be that way for another 5 or 6 hours. But anyway, let me flip you around. Boom, look at that. That just looks sick. I love it. I know this isn't some of your all's cup of tea, but I wanted to do something cool underneath there. You know what I mean? Like I said earlier in the video. But just turned out awesome. So I went ahead and painted the ends black to kind of break it up a little bit. I mean, there is kind of a change in the size of the drive shaft right here, right where it goes into the rear end. So it was kind of hard to keep that stripe going, but anyway, it still looks good. So this will be on the rear end, that'll obviously be on the transmission, and right in the middle is all that candy cane. Now, I know it looks different, like the stripes look different sizes, I kind of move around, but I assure you they're the same, and that just turned out awesome. So what I'm going to do next is I've got some clear coat. There's the lid where I was just shaking it up a minute ago. I've done laid it down somewhere. But anyway, I'm going to put probably 1 coat, maybe 2 coats of clear on here. I'm such an idiot. The clear was like here the whole time. Good grief. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and clear coat this, get 1 or 2 coats on it, and I'm going to call it a day. Go spend some time with the family. Well, they're in bed, but I'll spend time with the family tomorrow. On the next episode, we're going to get the transmission put in here, our new candy cane drive shaft, and hopefully have everything to finish this up for a first start. Now, we're going to do that live in front of everybody. So if this thing explodes and that blower goes through my ceiling up here, you're going to see it live. But anyway, thanks for hanging out with us. This has been a ball. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope 1 or 2 of you do it for your cars. That'd be cool. Big Block 402 on YouTube has candy cane. His truck might be a good idea for him. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. BRG out.